every spring there's a sand volleyball tournament. I think it actually just happened recently. And years ago, we walked into a property where all the teams were staying in that complex, and we had a lot of properties in that complex. We walked in, and the beds had been moved from one room to the other. Okay. And then the furniture had been moved into the bedrooms. And so like the living room furniture had been moved into the bedrooms. So some of your couches and some of your chairs in the living room were in the bedrooms. And then all your beds were in the living rooms. And we walked in and we're like, like, what's going on here? Right. We were really confused. But there was vomit all along the wall, all the way down the hallway. There was vomit. And then all of your dishes were out on the patio and up on the penthouse. So everything, the whole place had just been tore apart. That's one of the craziest stories that we've had.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the STR Investing Podcast. I am your host, Mark Lumpkin, and like always, every Friday, guys, for the last 3 years, we have brought you someone from the short-term rental industry who is an expert at what they do, who can bring some value to your business and can give you some tips and tricks and some insight into how you can better manage, acquire, set up, maintain a short-term rental. And so, guys, without further ado, we actually got one of my buddies who lives here in the Emerald Coast. Logan, what's up, Logan? Say hi to everybody.
Mark, so nice to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on, and super excited to get into it today.
Yeah, likewise, man. Logan, give us just a little background on you. Like, what do you do? Just give everybody a quick introduction of like what you're up to.
Just like you had just mentioned previously, we are in Northwest Florida. So we are actually a full-service, professionally managed vacation rental cleaning company. We operate 2 commercial laundry facilities, and currently we serve from Pensacola Beach all the way to Panama City Beach, right around 300 properties currently. But we are a full-service vacation rental cleaning company.
I love it, dude. We're going to really dive into how you guys do that, but off the rip, that's crazy. Like, we manage a couple of properties and like 2 or 3, and managing the cleanings on those is such a pain in the ass, and it's always our biggest pain point. The fact that you're able to manage 300 cleanings is insane, dude. So I love that. I'm excited to get into that with you, but I'd love to start from the beginning, man. What got you into the short-term rental space? What's kind of the story of how you ended up here? I know everyone listening in and everyone in this space, none of us like grew up like, oh, I can't wait to be in the short-term rental space. I'm going to go to school for this. I'm going to train for this. And so I always like to figure out like how you got into it and what was your story.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And there's something that always sticks with me that, there's no master's degree in this, right? That's for sure. Because like you said, we all find our way here. And I actually do have a master's degree in sports medicine, which is completely unrelated. And probably about 9 years ago, I was seeing work comp patients. I was seeing personal injury patients in an orthopedic clinic. And my wife, she's a school teacher. So she actually was the one cleaning vacation rentals. And I would come out and she would kind of direct me, right? She would tell me what to do, where to go, what to clean during summer vacation whenever she was off from her teaching role. And we just kept getting asked over and over in the hallways, hey, can you guys pick up another clean? Can you guys pick this up? And, you own a short-term rental. I'm sure you probably ran into that where you probably had to enlist some help last minute. But finally I looked around and I was like, there's kind of a need for this, huh? And so we ended up, starting a true business, cleaning business, and we picked up a couple of those properties that asked us. And probably about 2 to 3 months into actually starting the business and getting a little bit of some clients, the orthopedic job that I had, the insurance company that actually funded my position dropped the orthopedic clinic, and so there was no longer funding for my role. And so we decided to go all in on the Airbnbs. We had just started getting a little bit of traction. That was about 9 years ago, and we were fortunate to partner with some really good management companies, some really good small operators, and most of those are still our clients today. And we've been doing it for the past, 8, 9 years.
Cool. So you guys started as like really a side hustle, and it turned into like this legitimate business.
Yeah, it was 100% a side hustle. I mean, we were doing laundry out of the house. We were doing, our clients' laundry because they wanted their own stuff. So we'd have like a yellow fitted sheet with a brown flat sheet because the customers had different sheets for different beds. I mean, it was definitely very green when we started. We knew nothing about Airbnbs.
That's awesome, man. Good for you guys. I love that. How many years ago did it start as a side hustle?
Yeah, so summer of 2017. So we're coming up on the 9-year mark now.
Good for you guys, man. That's awesome. I think that it's very understated for most people how far you can get with a lot of lead time and how not far you can get with a little time. People overestimate how far they can get in 1 or 2 years, but they underestimate how far they can get in 9 or 10 years. And so it's really interesting. And I couldn't imagine when you guys started this, you were like, in 10 years, we're going to be one of the biggest cleaning companies in this region, and we're going to clean hundreds and hundreds of houses, and there's no way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, really when we started out, we had started in October, November is when we went full-time in the industry. And it's kind of funny because we started getting like 30, 40 properties under our belt, but we were getting 0 cleans. And so, the industry, but as a cleaning company, we rely on checkouts, right? Not necessarily occupancy. And so for us, we weren't getting a whole lot of cleans, and we had 30, 40 properties. And I was like, what is going on? And to be honest, we were going to garage sales and we were flipping stuff. So I would go to a garage. I would, one of my biggest turns was a pressure washer. I bought for $5, turned around and sold it for $100. So, and then come March, again, we knew nothing about the Airbnb industry, but come March, all of a sudden spring break came and all the properties that we had been, trying to acquire and get business from started turning. So then it became a different issue, right? So instead of it being, hey, we don't have enough work, it was, we have too much work. How do we hire people? How do we retain people? How do we handle all this laundry? And a whole new set of problems ended up kind of unfolding. So that's
crazy, man. You're totally side hustling. And then was it kind of like one day where it was just busy season? Because we know we've got a very seasonal market up here. It just that spring break hit, and then all of a sudden you went from garage sailing, flipping pressure washers to like, holy, how do I clean 20 houses this weekend?
That's exactly right. So and again, we had no scheduling system. It was like I have a Google Doc with a table that we made, right? Because we had so little cleans. It was literally that elementary. And it went from being a lot of empty rows to all of a sudden it was like I was having to add rows because we had so many cleans. So it was basically for us pretty much overnight where we saw that flip due to the seasonality.
Was that like firefighting? Was that just you're not planning, you're just basically you're playing defense. You're just trying to survive? And how long did that last? How long did that mindset of like, all right, we just got to find a way to do this last before you could feel like you started to then transition into playing offense and planning and putting in systems? Or did you build the ship as you were flying?
Yeah, that's I love that question. So the first 2 to 2.5 years, it was straight survival mode. So essentially we were trying to figure out how to hire, do the laundry, amenities, and we were doing different things for different people, right? So if you wanted this, we were the yes man, right? You want this? Yep, we'll do it. And this person wants this? Yep, we'll do it. And then after 2 to 3 years, really right before COVID hit, we started realizing that it was really hard to scale when you're doing a bunch of different things for a bunch of different people, right? I mean, you don't have a true program. You don't have a bunch of systems in place to actually run things well. And so, believe it or not, when COVID hit was about our breaking point where I made a decision. And I said, hey, look, either we're going to systematize this or we're just going to shut it down and we're going to be done. So COVID ended up hitting, and I had just joined a coaching program. And it was so funny because one of the first things that I had in that coaching, one of my coaching calls, is I was like, hey, where's the SOPs? I need processes. I need this, da-da-da-da. And they're like, okay, we'll get to that. But first things first, how does your budget look? And I was like, my budget? I was like, what is that? What does that have to do with anything, right? Why are we talking about our budget? And anyways, it was so funny because we ended up digging into that budget and we're like, okay, where are resources currently being utilized, and how can we free up some of those resources for these other hires and these other positions that we need to really help structure the business? So during COVID, we took a ton of time to dive deep into our budget and then really automate a bunch of stuff. So like Zapier, if you're familiar with that, is an automation software. So we spent probably 3 months just automating a bunch of stuff because here in Florida, we were shut down for, a few months. So by the time we had opened up, we had a few systems in place. We had a few automations in place to kind of take the burden off of us. And really that was a turning point for us to be like, okay, this is starting to work a little bit. Now we can implement some things where it's not as overwhelming, if that makes sense.
Dude, so almost like COVID was a little bit of a blessing for your business where it gave you some breathing room and a break, right?
It really was. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we had that time where before we were in the field. Like I was up smashing, a Bang energy drink 4 o'clock in the morning, going out and doing pre-inspections or sometimes cleaning and sometimes inspecting, just really whatever the day needed. And then we had that break where we could spend the time to look at our hiring process, look at our budget, start building some systems to actually free us up a little bit.
For sure. That's awesome, man. Did you realize at the time that it was like a little bit of a blessing in disguise? Were you like, oh, this is our chance? Like we finally have a moment to breathe, and we're going to use that to come back even stronger when this thing turns back on? Or what was that transition like? What was that mindset like?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. So we got to that point and we're like, all right, we know that when this opens up, we can't continue down the fire hose like you just talked about. So we built, instead of going 12 hours a day in the field, it was 12 hours a day just building systems. So whether that's Zapier, the budget dive, whether that's building SOPs, really that's where my love of systems like really started, especially once we opened up and we started seeing like, hey, this is actually working, and we have a single source of truth, and we have our way and not just the way he wants us to do it and the way this person wants us to do it. It's like this produces results. Now we can standardize this.
I love that. You didn't consider just being like, screw this, we're going to Mexico and laying on the beach for the next couple of months. You guys were like, we're going to make our business better, which is impressive, man. What was that transition like then going back to your customers, right? You were, like you said, you were a yes man. You were doing anything, anyway, whatever they wanted, da-da-da-da. You had that COVID break. You kind of reimagined your business and put all these processes in place. But now you have to go back to the market and say, hey, those brown and yellow sheets, that's not going to fly anymore. And so what was that like? How did you bring that back to your clients? And what was the response from a lot of your existing clients?
That is a good question. And honestly, that was one of my first lessons in hard conversations, right? So I think you nailed it where, some of these guys that we talked to, the reality is like they had a certain way they wanted, and that was their brand, but it no longer matched our core values and the brand that we were trying to produce. So having that conversation, we had some mixed results. So we did have some individuals that were like, hey, we're going to have our 300 thread count blue and brown and yellow sheets no matter what. And so we did have to let some clients go because it was very important to us. We knew we couldn't sustain it going the direction we were. So we did have to let some clients go. And then we have some other clients that are still with us today that, again, offered us a lot of grace, but also were in a learning environment themselves. And they're like, hey, this actually sounds way better. This makes a ton of sense. Like, why haven't we been doing this for day one? And those are some of our best clients because they understand the outcome, they understand the process and the standard, and they know what to expect every time.
That's awesome, man. Really cool. So you had some drop off, some people stuck with you, but then it just opened up the floodgates for new clients.
That's exactly right. And what's nice now is I have, before we didn't have a scope of work. So we didn't even really have a scope of work. It was just like a little checklist. Hey, we're definitely going to do this. But now we were able to take that and we're like, okay, this is our standard. Now we put it in a proposal, right? So now we have terms, we have a proposal. This is what you can expect. And it's a lot more clear to new clients. So up front, they're like, hey, this makes sense or it doesn't make sense. They can know that from the beginning instead of like getting into a relationship, working with us a couple of weeks and be like, yeah, this doesn't make sense.
Gotcha, for sure. Once you set the expectation, it's better for everybody and you have less fallout. And so good for you guys, man. That's really cool. Was that scary at times? Was there moments where you were like, crap, we should go back to doing it the other way we did? We just lost an account. We just lost another client. Would that run through your mind?
Yeah, 100%. We had a lot of revenue. I think initially we dropped like 30% of our revenue just with clients that it didn't make sense for anymore. But the good news is we started understanding who our ideal customer was. And so we were able to start targeting those guys more and just really empower our team to say yes or no, like, hey, does this make sense? Does this not make sense on our side? And then really when we found that match where it made sense on both sides, those are the guys that we've been able to work with forever and really get to the point where we have as many, turns and properties that we do now.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's talk about cleaning because I know that's what people want to listen to on this pod. They're like, all right, that's great. We love your story, Logan. way to make it happen, dude. But I got houses that need to be cleaned and it's busy season and I've got guests checking out today at 10 and I've got another group of 12 people coming in at 4, but they want to get in at 2 because they're requesting an early check-in and the people leaving at 10 don't want to leave till 11. Like, can you start walking us through the actual process and like what you guys have found have worked? And I've walked one of your guys' property with you and I was super impressed by the quality and the attention to detail. And so how does that happen? How is the sausage made here? Open this up for us.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I would say, again, coming back to our SOPs and our systems, number one, it's got to be clear. Whenever we turn a property, what does that look like? And it's not just I don't want to have to come in and just point out a bunch of stuff all the time. I want you to be able to have a source of truth, right? Where you look at it and it's more than a checklist, okay? Because there is a difference between, in our opinion, there's a difference between clean and guest ready, right? So a property can be clean but not have enough towels and enough amenities and things like that, which would make it not guest ready. So for us, we're focused on guest readiness. So number one, that's going to be, we got to have it clean. And then number two, we have to have it guest ready. So ultimately, guest readiness is the cornerstone that we're looking for. And so we have a 7-step process, and a 7-step process basically walks our cleaning professionals from when they enter the property to whenever they close out the property. What do they do? So it's very clear on what they do. And part of that is going to be staging and inventory. So we want to make sure that staging and inventory, that we have that inviting space, and that it has enough amenities, it has enough towels. So that's the number one most important piece, is just standardizing what a turnover actually looks like. The number two piece is actually communication. So one thing that we have noticed with, maybe some, even internally, some small teams or that we've seen work with other property managers, is sometimes if they're doing the actual cleaning, it can be hard to get a hold of them, right? So like to your point, maybe we have a guest that checks out a little bit late. It's 11 o'clock. They're getting a late start. It's a bigger home. I'm like, do you have enough time? Do you have to do laundry on site? Are you doing it off site? Or do I need to call the guests and tell them to go grocery shopping or take them out to dinner before they arrive, or whatever that may be? Is communication. So for us, we actually have a dedicated account manager for every single customer that's on our program. You have this one individual, or a Slack channel or a phone number. You have this one source that if you go there, you're gonna have your account manager respond, and then we're gonna start asking our cleaning professionals on your behalf, to make sure that they understand the timelines for those cleans. Those are the top two pieces, and then the third would be laundry. Doing laundry off-site. Really, doing laundry on-site is such a bottleneck, and it's a big challenge. That, honestly, a lot of cleaning pros, they still do laundry on-site, and that ends up putting units late. You have stains, which is why we ultimately opened up, 2 of our commercial laundry facilities, is to take it off-site and make it remove that bottleneck.
Dude, that's our biggest problem, right? As owners in this market of short-term rentals, is that you don't have enough time. You have somebody that wants to check out at 11 or 12, and then you want somebody that wants to check in 3 or 4 hours later. You've got 10 beds worth of laundry to do. You got towels, you got throw blankets. I see all the time in these groups, they're like, oh, I'm not washing my duvet covers because I just don't have enough time. And so you're sacrificing quality because you don't even have enough time to do things the right way. And so I would assume that's one of the biggest unlocks that you guys have found, right? Because how long does a turn take if you don't have to do laundry? What's the average time?
I would say like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Let's say you got like a 2-bed, 2-bath, maybe 2 kings and maybe a bunk, like a small little bunk in the hallway. It's like 2 twins. That one's going to take roughly 2 hours, maybe a little bit over, if you're doing laundry offsite. Now, you just heard me say it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 beds. So if you're doing sheets, towels, hopefully a small coverlet, not a thick one, right, or a duvet cover, that's probably 3 or 4 loads of laundry at least. And if you've got,
now you're there for 4 or 5 hours.
You're at least there for 4 or 5 hours. And now the cleaning pro is not making as much money. Now they're upset because they've got to go somewhere else. So removing that bottleneck is huge, because now they can go and clean another property and not sacrifice the quality of the clean.
Dude, that's epic, man. So you're basically, that unlock right there allows you to get a property done in half the time, which allows your cleaner to be twice as productive. They probably are able to spend a little bit more time doing it right because they're not worried about getting the laundry done, getting to the next project, so their quality's higher. So that unlock right there is just like, that's it. You don't need anything else. That right there is huge. I'm curious on like how you guys manage the different cleanliness levels of when you get to a property. And what I mean by this is, we have one guest that checks out. We show up, the house is beautiful. They didn't sleep in 3 of the beds. They washed all the dishes and put them away. They did a quick sweep. They've started a load of towels or whatever, and that's great. And then we have the next guest a couple of days later who have trashed the house. And there's sand everywhere, and there's stains on the beds, and every single towel has been used, and every cup and plate is piled high in the sink. And so that inconsistency with the condition of the home when you show up to the property becomes a problem operationally, because you never know what you're walking into. And so how do you guys manage that? How do you manage the inconsistency and never knowing what to expect when your cleaner cracks that door for the first time?
So I would say the biggest thing is, no matter if everything has been used or nothing has been used, we typically turn everything the same. Okay. So we're always, number one, that's going to allow us to like get in a rhythm in your property, right? So if we come into your property and we treat it the same way every single time, we don't have to stop and think, was that bed used or was it not used? Because even if it wasn't used, they may have went in there to put something in the closet with their shoes on, and now they track sand into that room, and then now all of a sudden someone's going to complain about the sandy floors, because we've seen it happen. Because we used to, in the past, if owners would come in and they'd only use one room, they'd tell us that, we would be like, oh, we're going to charge you half and we're only going to clean this section. Well, then the next guest comes in and something happened where you got sandy floors. So no matter what, we're going to treat it like a full guest departure clean. So we're going to turn every single bed. We're going to change every single bed no matter what. We're going to change out the towels. We're going to clean everything. Now, if it's an excessive clean, spring break, we have spring break here that's huge. Summer vacation that's huge. A lot of times you walk in and it's in pretty rough shape. There's a story that my operations manager tells us that I love, but there's a house that he went to one time, spring break, and the whole yard is just filled with beer cans. Okay. So you couldn't even walk to the house because the whole yard is just filled with beer cans. And that would definitely qualify as an excessive clean. So when we get to that, we have what's called a dirt code. So basically, we pull out it's like a little bookmark. It's a dirt code where it's like, all right, does this fall under excessive cleaning? Yes or no? And if it does, if it meets that certain dirt code, what we'll do is we'll turn around and contact you and we'll say, hey, Mark, we got to your property. Here's pictures. It's going to take a little bit more time. We just want to make sure you're okay with this because there will be an additional charge, and it may take a little bit longer. And so once we get green lighted, we'll end up rerouting that cleaning pro's second unit, or if they have one, and we'll cover that for them so they can spend the appropriate time for that excessive clean.
Yeah, interesting, man. Interesting. So you're not normally having to bring in a second person or a second team to that property. You're basically just canceling that team's second project that they would have got done in your time window and giving them the extra time to do the clean properly.
That's exactly right. Unless it's like a big house where we were already kind of cutting it close. So like say our time goal, we were going to be cutting close maybe like an hour within check-in time because it's a larger property, then we would bring in an additional team. But if it's just like a 2-2 condo or a 3-2 condo, typically that's how we would handle it.
Makes total sense. All right, what do you do in the case of major damage? So you show up and, like I've been there, you show up and the curtains are ripped off the wall and there's drywall dust everywhere, and this is not a cleaning crew fix. This is a handyman fix. This is blah, 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 blah. This is a different skill set. How do you guys handle things like that?
Yeah, so number one, we're going to report it immediately. So that's a part of our 7-step process. We come in, we take pictures, we're going to report that because, again, one of our core values is guest obsession. So are we obsessing over the guest if we leave this like this and don't report it, even though it's not our job? Well, that's the wrong mindset. So 100%, we're going to report it to you guys. And then really, we have an in-house maintenance tech. And then we're like, hey, look, we can fix this potentially if it's nothing like super high skill, like we're not going to work on ACs or, electrical. But if it's just some handyman fixes, if not, at least you have time to, notify your handyman to get him in before the next guest. So that way, the goal is to make sure that property is ready before guest check-in, even if you've got some damage, unless it's obviously, something that can't be fixed in that timeline.
I love it. All right, what do you think about smells? Because I know this is probably you weren't expecting this, I guarantee you. But what are your thoughts around fragrance? And I have some mixed thoughts on this. I've walked into houses where they have the Scentsy plugged in, and I'm like, it just smells like toxic chemicals, and this is not enjoyable. And I've also walked into other properties where it's like, it's a Florida house and it smells a little dingy and it smells a little moldy and it smells a little moist, and that's not a great experience either. And I think there's kind of a fine line in between. You do want your property to smell good and fresh and clean, but you don't want it to smell toxic-y and gross. And there's a lot of people that are sensitive to that. What are your guys' thoughts on how the property smells when you leave for the first guest to show up?
This is by far probably the most controversial topic internally that we have around our actual cleaning process. So historically, we have always been a no fragrance type of company, just because you have so many people that are sensitive. And then what I like may be different than what you like because it's so subjective, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges. Now, I will say we typically leave it up to the property manager, but we have been trying to research what we feel like makes sense from a scent profile. And ultimately, where we're landing right now is for some of our properties, we are going to start introducing a very light coastal clean smell. So the key is it cannot be overpowering and it can't just be throughout the whole place, right? So you really want that first 30 seconds when they walk in for them to walk in and go, Because guess what? If that first 30 seconds is a inviting and warm environment, they're not going to go around and look for 100 different things. And I do think part of that is the smell, because like you just mentioned, some of your properties you walk in and it's clean, but it doesn't smell like super great. And you don't want your cleaners using Fabuloso or these other ones that typically smell really good, because it's going to trap dirt on top of surfaces, especially floors. So you don't want them using that either. So I will say, if you can find something like light that's not overpowering when they first walk in, that's probably one of the bigger unlocks to really have them, prevent them from looking everywhere else for, smaller things that could be cleaning issues or cleaning related.
All right, next one. What about like windows? Because especially on properties that have views. And so when you and me were at that property, we walked that property together. It was a condo, and the best part of it, you open the door and holy hell, there's the beach. 100 stories up, it was pretty epic. The windows were perfectly clean. How do you guys do that? Is that part of your checklist? Is that part of your requirements for your cleaners? Are they squeegeeing and watering it? Like, how do they manage? Because there's a lot of windows and a lot of doors, man.
Yeah. So windows, like you just mentioned, especially on our beachfront properties, like why do they come to visit where we're at? The beach, the water, right? So that they want to have that beautiful view. So for us, what we typically do is we do use a squeegee, but we have a in-house chemical that we use on the actual window surfaces. We clean it with a squeegee, and then we polish it with spray away. So you're cleaning with the chemical and you're polishing with a spray away. And then twice a year, usually one time during the deep clean and one time pre-season, we actually put Rain-X on there, okay? And the reason that we do that is it actually prevents the salt from building up. So once you clean it, it's a lot easier to maintain between every single departure clean.
Dude, I love that, man. And those are some great tips for people that own beachfront properties or own properties, in Florida. The windows are super important, and I feel like it's almost like a clean car, where when the windows are dirty, the car's really not that clean. But you get that professional detail on your car, and they do the little extra things. That's what I equate it to. I can clean my car decent on the weekend with the stuff I got in my garage. I can vacuum it up. But when the detail guy comes over, the mobile detail guy comes over once every 6 months, I get in that car and it's all the little things. Like the tires are shined, the windows are streak free. Those are the little things. And what I noticed when we walked that property with you is you guys are like the professional detailer. You guys have those little extra things that when you compile them all together, it creates this experience that's just kind of unbelievable. So have you guys noticed like a measurable difference in total guest reviews based upon property owners, property managers who are using your service for cleans? Like, are they getting better reviews from their guests?
Yeah, so I love that question. So the way we measure, so we're not always privy to all of the platforms' cleaning reviews. Airbnb and a couple others are, they're pretty open about that cleanliness rating. But we actually have a spreadsheet, okay? And we have every single property, and we have every link that we can find that tells us those cleaning reviews. And so our goal is we need at least a 4.8 or above on average. That's our goal, because that gets you superhost status, get you everything that you need to make sure that your property is showing up in the algorithm. So we go every single month, we go into every property and we update that Airbnb cleaning rating. And so what we do is we're like, okay, which ones are like crushing it? Obviously, we want all 5s across the board. Which ones do we need to give more attention to? And so that's how we look at all of our portfolio to see which ones need a little bit more attention or which ones are doing really well. And then we dive deeper. Is it a property that just is really out of date and needs to be remodeled? Does it have carpet in it when it should have tile? Does it have the updated silverware and things? Because sometimes we get hit cleaning, but it's really a property maintenance challenge too. So we try to dive deep. Is it that, or is it truly cleaning and we need to up our game in that property?
Yeah, I love that, man. Do you guys, so one thing that I've always told people that I've implemented is really a quarterly maintenance checklist, which is like every 3 months, we got to go make sure that we got clean air filters. We do a little touch-up paint. The top of the fans are clean. The silverware is in good shape. There's enough cups. There's blah, blah. Like you said, some of those, they're more of like maintenance and issues and like reinvesting into the property, which I'm sure some owners are not doing. And then that comes back on you guys, but it's not really your fault that there was only 3 cups. They just didn't buy enough cups or they didn't buy more after cups went missing. Do you guys have you mentioned deep cleans a couple times a year. Do you guys have a service where and do you recommend doing more than just your standard clean a couple of times a year? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so deep cleans, 100%. That's going to be a part of our deep clean. We actually inventory the entire kitchen, and then we do make recommendations where it's like, hey, we only have 6 cups or, 4, if it sleeps 12 or whatever it may be. So we 100% do that. Touch-up paint's a big one. So, a magic eraser that got some scuffs, we could try to take that off, but sometimes it just needs some nice touch-up paint. So we'll recommend anything that we see maintenance-wise. We do recommend that during a deep clean. And then in between cleans, a lot of times our inspectors that come in and actually like QA the property, part of their role is they will check the cupboards and they'll check for like missing items and damage. And then we have some customers that we actually have a monthly what we call PMI, preventative maintenance inspection, but it's a monthly PMI where we go in and we do check the filters and the batteries and the bulbs. But those guys are kind of on a case-by-case basis. That's not necessarily part of the standard program unless they choose for that service offering.
I love it. All right, man, let's have some fun. You ready for some fun?
All right, let's do it.
Craziest stories. You've been doing this for 10 years. You guys clean 300 properties. You have 300 properties that you probably turn over dozens and dozens of times a year. You guys are doing thousands and thousands of cleans a year. What are some of the craziest stories of what your cleaning team have walked into? You mentioned a yard full of beer cans. One, let's talk about some crazy stories. And 2, let's talk about some crazy things that you guys have found left in the home.
Okay. I would say story-wise, it has to be every spring there's a sand volleyball tournament. I think it actually just happened recently. And years ago, we walked into a property where all the teams were staying in that complex, and we had a lot of properties in that complex. We walked in, and the beds had been moved from one room to the other. Okay. And then the furniture had been moved into the bedrooms. And so the living room furniture had been moved into the bedrooms. So some of your couches and some of your chairs in the living room were in the bedrooms. And then all your beds were in the living rooms. And we walked in and we're like, what's going on here? Right. We were really confused. But there was vomit all along the wall, all the way down the hallway. There was vomit. And then all of your dishes were out on the patio and up on the penthouse. So the whole place had just been tore apart. That's one of the craziest stories that we've had. And then another one from
I'd love to know if they won the Airbnb claim. Like if they were able to get the OTA and the guests to pay for all that. Because what does that do? That has to shut down your listing for a couple of days while you rearrange everything, deep clean everything. Like, come on, guys.
Well, so one that has not happened to us, but one that has happened to a partner of ours that we know well in the industry. They had I want to say it was like a college fraternity had came there, and they had just gotten, hammered, and they had actually taken all the furniture inside the property out back and put it in a fire pit and was burning the furniture in a fire pit. And
no, dude.
Again, not our property, but that's one that's always stuck with me where I'm like, that's just crazy. So
insane, man. All right, so what's the craziest stuff your cleaners have found? And I'm sure they found plenty of weird stuff.
Adult toys is pretty common. So that's one that, stands out. And really like handguns. We find a lot of handguns. I don't know.
So many.
Yeah. So I would say those are really the 2 top things that we find that are just, you get surprised that people leave that. So
what do you guys do when you have a handgun?
Call the police immediately. Yeah, we don't touch it.
And then they'll just come pick it up. The Santa Rosa County Sheriff, peel up, throw it in there. You message the guest, hey, if you need your gun, the cops have got it.
100%. And it's actually funny because one of the guys that left his handgun was a cop. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we had to get the local police to come and get it to him because we don't really know.
Oh man, he's probably got in trouble for that. That's a state issue, man. All right, so guns, lots of adult toys. Adult toys just go in the trash.
Typically, yeah. We don't usually ask the customer if they want those. So.
Yeah. You don't ship those in the mail back to their house in Wisconsin.
That's exactly right. So.
You guys have your cleaners ever rolled up on just like people? Like I'm sure that the guests haven't checked out, but have they just been like walking through the house, they've been cleaning for an hour, they walk into the master bedroom, and then all of a sudden there's some person just sleeping? The
only time that really happens, to be honest, is like the off season, right? So, typically our partners and our customers do a really good job of like locking up their properties. So usually that's a non-issue, but every now and then you'll get a ground floor unit, the sliding glass door for whatever reason wasn't locked. And there have been situations where someone walks in and they've noticed like someone was there, maybe not at the same time, and they've done some investigation to realize that someone actually did walk into that unit. So nothing too crazy around that. Like I said, the team and our customers do a pretty good job around it. But when it has happened, that's usually the situation that has happened in. I love it, man. That's cool. All right. So the next thing is just the future, which is a super interesting topic. I know you're
deep in AI for processes and system and customer support tickets, and definitely forward thinking on that. We talk about it often. But at the end of the day, until the Tesla robot is here and is probably a couple thousand times better, because right now it's pretty slow. It ain't cleaning a house. It can barely scoop popcorn into a bowl for people. It takes 5 minutes to do that. So we're not there yet. But in the immediate future, there's no way that the day-to-day labor, the cleaning, the getting on your hands and knees and scrubbing the floors, that stuff is not going to go away. AI is not replacing that. So how do you balance thinking and using AI in your business for certain things, but also owning and operating a business that AI is not replacing anytime in the future? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
So I'm actually really happy, like the service business that we have, because like you said, we are a people-powered business, and so without people, really this service offering doesn't exist. So I don't think that AI is, knock on wood, I don't think AI is going to be replacing this service anytime soon. So that is super, comforting. But at the same time, where we do use it is how can we be more efficient, right? So for example, one way that we use AI is every week we run performance reviews, okay? And that's across all of our cleaning professionals. And what we do is we look in their check-in times, we look at their quality, and we look at their time goals, how efficient they are, and then we rate them. We're like, hey, how did this person do? How did this person do? And then we coach up people, we praise people, whatever that is. Historically, when you have 80, 90, 100 people cleaning once a week, that takes like a full day to get done. So one thing with AI we've done is we've given it kind of our parameters. We take it, and now while you and I are having this call, it can be working in the background, and by the time I'm done, it has that report ready. So I think the biggest thing is not replacing the humans in our business, but really like making them more productive and helping them be more efficient in their roles is the biggest way that we're trying to use AI.
I love that. Logan, we could talk all day, man. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for coming on and chatting with us about all the fun cleaning stuff, telling some good stories. It's so important. I would say most first-time investors need to listen to this episode, because they always come to me with, how do I get this house cleaned? And you have a short time window. You have to have systems, processes, a partner like you to do it well, because it's the number one thing that kills reviews and makes guests unhappy. You never want someone to walk into an unclean house. It's a bad experience, and it's almost impossible to recover from that. Someone checks into a house they paid thousands of dollars for on vacation, and it's dirty, and the beds have stains on them, and there's food left in the fridge, and that you can't overcome that. You can't win back. And so doing it right at the beginning is super important. How do people connect with you, man? What's the best way people can reach out to you?
Yeah, you can go to our website, www.thedreamcleanteam.net, or you can email me directly at logan@thedreamcleanteam.net.
Cool, man. We will drop your website, email. I'll probably drop your socials in the your LinkedIn and stuff in the chat, so if people want to reach out to you. And I appreciate you being here, Logan. Any parting words, anything else you want to leave people with as we wrap this up?
No, nothing really, but other than just keep guest readiness in mind. So clean and guest ready are different. So everything we do from a PM side, from a property manager side, or a cleaning side, keep that in mind, and we should be just fine.
I love it, man. Thanks for being here, Logan. Everybody, thanks for tuning into the STR Investing Podcast. We will catch you next Monday for a Monday Market Data Report, and next Friday for another guest speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.